When it comes to building Pontiac power, there's a few different ways you can do it, but there seems to be a lot more love towards the Pontiac 350s lately. So today we're looking at a Pontiac 350 stroker setup that takes it out to a 407, and dude, it looks worth it. If you want to follow along with the parts, check the pinned comment down below because the parts list is right down there for you. So let's begin this journey by looking at the parts list here. We've got ported number 18 heads, which came off a 350 HO. These are a 196, 166 valve setup. Now this is running a 64cc head chamber, so it can run really hot really quickly running that stroker. So in order to combat that smaller chamber, what we're going to do is we're going to add some dish into the piston. Right here we're running a 6cc dish for about a 9.72 to 1 compression ratio. Still a little hot, but it'll work, especially if you want to run E85, premium, or a little higher quality gas here. Now, along with that, running a Pontiac RPM air gap setup from Edelbrock, 1 5/8 inch headers, and a Paul Spots 068 high lift cam with 1.65 ratio rockers. Now, since we are running a fairly high lift cam in this engine, what we're going to need to do is switch out those springs, maybe cut down the guides, and just make a little bit of extra room. Now, if you do have later heads, like after 71, and you want to go ahead and do something similar to this, what you can do is use 67 to 70 valves, and that usually gives you an extra 1/10 of an inch or so. That's a pretty big difference in this setup. So let's take a look at the numbers here. So on 93 octane, we're sitting at a peak horsepower number of 392 horsepower and a peak torque of 408. Not bad for a Pontiac 350. Now, what we can do here is go ahead and stroke this out. Now, that also means we have to bore this out as well, which does kind of give it a little bit of an unfair advantage. But if you're doing this machining anyway, you probably should get it bored out and get it ready for the stroker kit from Butler. So let's take a look at those numbers. So the original Pontiac 350 came with 3.875 inch bore and a 3.75 inch stroke. This ended up being about 353.8, call it 354 cubes, but we're going to up that number quite a bit here. Throwing in that stroker kit and doing our machining brings us to a 3.905 bore and a 4.25 inch stroke, giving us 407 cubic inches, give or take, 0.2, something like that, depending on how your machining goes. But that's kind of what we're shooting at here, is significantly more stroke and a little bit more bore, but that's really going to wake this engine up and give it really what it needs here. So let's take a look at the comparison. So along with that stroker kit comes a 14cc dish to bring compression down to about 10 to 1, which is still a little bit more than that 350 had, and it's running ragged edge of what I want to run on pump gas. So again, 85 would be ideal here, but we're calling this 93 octane, and it is, like I said, a ragged edge. But that puts us to 415 peak horsepower and 464 peak foot-pounds of torque. That's insane. That's a ton of gain on the torque end. Yet the horsepower is only minimal gains, but we're talking a law of averages here. So our averages are going to be significantly higher with the 407 setup over the 350 setup, which, I mean, that's really what it's all about, right? Is if you can keep average horsepower throughout your entire band, you're going to move that car significantly faster with more force and a whole lot more smiles as you're burning rubber. If you wanted to go ahead and shift this power band, what you could do is click the video on screen right now, and that goes over single plane versus dual plane intakes and really shows the possibilities with both intakes.